And we are live and we are back. Let's go. I'm Cory, your host, one half of the Quarter and Full of Fed podcast. And I'm back like I never left with another installment of Wealth Wednesday here on the Quarter and Full of Fed podcast. We discuss health and wealth, finance, fitness, and everything in between. We want to make sure you save more and save less and keep making better your best. Yes. However, my co-host Jordan went on paternity leave. We started these Wealth Wednesdays where I get straight to the financial information note filler in between. And I know y'all see the topic of today's video. We were going to discuss student loans, but as I've been saying the last few episodes, we got some mortgage stuff. I did not know this mortgage stuff was going to pop up. If you have not seen what is going on or not going on with Navy Federal Credit Union, they're denying black borrowers for conventional loans, or too many, too big of a gap. I don't know. All I'm going to say is we have been working, when I say we, me, myself, and I, to get the episodes down as far as length. But today, the CNN article we are about to cover is not short. So this, y'all can already see because this isn't a live stream. But forgive me if this is over an hour. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour because my shift is going to start here soon. But my goodness, we have a lot of information to cover today. A lot of information from myself. This article, different insight that I have. I did want to say everything that I say is my opinion and my opinion only. I don't want as if this is going to blow up. But if it does, I don't want anybody that I'm connected with on the financial institution side to, be viewed as if they agree or had any say so on what I'm going to say. This is all 100% my opinion and only my opinion. Not even Jordan's opinion, even though technically it's tied to everything that I do on here. This is all my opinion. We're going to get into some stuff about what happened or did not happen with Navy Federal Credit Union denying black borrowers, but for mortgage loans, conventional mortgage loans at that. I just want to get into it now. But my goodness. But before we get started, make sure y'all comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't ask me where the pinned comment is at, so y'all don't have to click on the description where you can find my information as well as my co-host Jordan information. I actually like that little transition. Don't ask me where the pinned comment is at, so you don't have to click into the description where you can find our information. I got to pin the comment. Anyways, Jordan is Stop Stalling J on socials. His business website is FinallyFit.live, where you can sign up for 5:30 a.m. Monday and Wednesday virtual training sessions, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, sideline_Cory on socials. You can reach out to me for the financial information. All right. And again, last but not least, don't sue me, sue your mama. This for entertainment purposes only. Myself, no Jordan or fitness or finance professionals. Anything you hear on here is for entertainment purposes only. And you need to seek out a professional and do your own research before taking any action. All right. Let me get on my laptops. These aren't even, this is technically my wife's old laptop, but since it's a Mac, I'm using it now. I must have so many. And my college laptop is right here. Then all this paperwork, my wife's car. It's a mess. There's so much stuff. All right, y'all. And again, student loans. We're gonna talk about student loans next time. If you haven't seen what's going on with student loans, Mohila and maybe another one I haven't researched too much. I do everything live on here with y'all. But my goodness, they messed up. As I said. The student loan situation, when they turn these student loans back on, it's going to be probably a little bit of a hiccup, but it looks like it might be a big hiccup. So we're going to talk about that on the next episode. But being that I've been thinking and have decided to change these Wealth Wednesdays, I think it's only right that this is the last Wealth Wednesday episode. We're going to get into something that is very dear to my heart. Shout out to Navy Federal. Very dear to my heart, Black people. Very dear to my heart, mortgages. Very dear to my heart, financial institution, and people not understanding what actually goes on behind the scenes. It is going to be so real on this episode. All right, here we go, y'all. Navy Federal denying too many black borrowers. I think I'm supposed to do something, but I guess not. I did all shout outs and all that and the disclaimer. Oh my, high memory usage. Let's get started, y'all. This is going to be, and like I said, we're going to CNN, not CNN NBC, but we're going to CNN for this one. And if you had not seen, long story short, before we get started, it came out that Navy Federal had a significant gap as far as how many white borrowers they approved versus black borrowers. All right. Now we're going to get into the data. When I saw the nation's largest credit union rejected more than half of its black conventional mortgage applicants. This is by Casey Tolan, Audrey Ash, and Renee Marsh, CNN. This was published December 14, 2023. And again, it's a 14-minute read. So y'all know that's going to be, let's say I probably going to take 3 times long. That's probably going to be an hour-long episode. When I saw this, I was like, wait, it can't be I know the largest credit union is Navy, but I was like, it can't be Navy that did this. It can't be Navy that did this. And then for those of y'all who haven't seen the episode that Jordan and I did, where we talked about an episode where EYL/Hemp 500, they were on the Big Facts podcast, and I posted it on my Twitter, the clip of it, where Hemp 500 is literally telling people to commit bank fraud, which can get you 30 years in prison. In the sense, he was telling people to intentionally, fraudulently apply for a car loan, knowing you weren't going to get a car loan, which is fraud, get an VIN number, and then Navy had a way where if you didn't make use of the loan, I think in 90 days, they would issue you a personal loan, but you still had to get a personal loan. Damn scams calling me. You still had to get a personal loan to you still had to find somebody to buy the car, so do a private sale or whatever it was. It's all fraud. They were telling people to open up a Navy Federal account because Navy Federal was a financial institution that would allow you to do that, and not allow you to do that fraudulently. But if you did intentionally want to get a car loan, and for whatever reason you couldn't get it in the time frame, they would issue a personal loan. Whatever it is, what it is, those are the practices. This was out probably, I would say 2020, 2021, but height of the pandemic. Now, these numbers for this article, I think, are 2023 numbers. All right, so at the back end of the pandemic. So were there not an influx of people scamming to get in the Navy Federal? There's been videos out there where people saying you can watch Pocket Watching with JT. He has a great episode on this about this particular topic. But you see people out there telling you to call Navy and say your grandfather was in the military. Him 500 said this as well. Say your grandfather was in the military. Him 500 said this on EYL. Again, Pocket Watching with JT has this on there, where Him 500 is saying, hey, call them, tell them your grandfather was in the military, but your grandfather's dead and you don't have his information. The Navy's going to let you in. It's like, my goodness. Why are y'all? And then also, too, speaking of, this is another sweet spot for me. My dad's retired military disabled veteran. My wife is a veteran, disabled veteran. It's called stolen valor. I don't know if that's what it's called for this particular scenario, but claiming that you're in the military or someone in the military to get those particular benefits is egregious. It is insane, unreal to even think of doing that. And this is why I need to be in charge. I know I'm not going to be in charge. This is why I need to be in charge. People need to start going to prison, not jail, prison, for a very long time. Because now it's getting out of control where it's just like, and it's not like it's hard to get into the military. It's not like it's hard to get into the military and you do your 4 years, you get out and you get these veteran benefits. All right. But we're going to get into it. And again, I think this is real key here. More than half is Black conventional mortgage applicants. Okay. Black conventional. Okay. So Black people who applied for conventional mortgages. Before we get started, some of you might not know that, again, see, now you guys get the behind the scenes benefit. If you work at a financial institution, know people that work at a financial institution. Let's say I'm going to offer you a conventional loan. And if you don't qualify for a conventional loan, I would offer you an FHA loan. But as a financial institution, we have to offer FHA loans. So why don't we just first look at? No, Navy Federal Union does not offer FHA loans. Well, I think that's a key data point. So will CNN speak on that? Yes, they didn't approve these people for conventional loans, but it's not like they could still approve them for mortgage anyway. Now, I want to say this. Do these Black people who they deny, do they have access to the VA loan? Again, this is Navy Federal, where essentially you have to be in the military or a veteran / veteran or retired. Right? All retirees are veterans. All veterans aren't retired. You essentially have to have some type of military service, and then they opened it up in the last decade or so where less people needed to have had military service. But for the most part, most people at Navy Federal are going to have served in the military as far as the majority of their applicants. On top of that, if you're in the military or you're a veteran, not all veterans are disabled, but if you're a disabled veteran or you're active duty military, what do you have? You have guaranteed income. Even if the government, does shut down, military always, DOD, government employees, federal employees, they always get that back pay. When you're applying for a loan and they see that you're disabled veteran, you're active duty, they know you're getting money, and they know you're getting money on the 1st and the 15th, you active duty, and on the 1st, you get actually, if you're at Navy, you get your money on the day before the 1st, whatever it's the 30th or 31st or 28th, 29th of February. You're going to get that disability money. They know you have guaranteed income coming in. For those people who are 100% disabled veterans, their income is close to roughly $45,000 a year. They get over $3,600 a month. Okay, we're not going. So I don't know what data we're about to get into, but if these black people got denied. Were they military? At least their spouse military, right? So they were in a military household. Did they get disabled income if they were military? What type of data points are we about to see for these black people that got denied? All right, because I've seen some of it because it's been going viral on my timeline, but it's just about to be a mess, y'all. All right, or is it not? Let's see. The largest credit union in the U.S., shout out to Navy Federal Credit Union, no affiliation, has the widest disparity in mortgage approval rates between white and black borrowers of any major lender, a trend that reached new heights last year. CNN analysis found. Let's be clear. They said larger than anybody. So this is the big four, Citi, Bank of America. Was it Citi, Bank of America? Yeah, Chase and Wells Fargo. It is going to be crazy. What we're about to find out, y'all. Navy Federal, which lends to military service members and veterans. Okay, look what this says. Even CNN is saying, again, I have not read this article ahead of time. Again, all these views are mine and mine only. I told y'all, most people at Navy Federal are service members, meaning they're active duty or they're veterans, whether they served their 20s, so they're retirees, or they did less than their 20, but they did active duty and they got out, like my wife's situation. But most people at Navy have military service at some point in time in their life or currently active duty, or they're retired, or they're reservists. Shout out to the reservists out there. Let me not discount the reservists. Approved more than 75% of white borrowers, Navy did, who apply for a new conventional home purchase. Okay, this is in 2022. This analysis was probably done in 2023. This is a new conventional home purchase mortgage in 2022, according to the most recent data available from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. But less than 50% of black borrowers who applied for the same type of loan were approved. And I think it was 48% of black borrowers. While many banks also approved white applicants at higher rates than black borrowers, as they should, by the way, the data clearly shows whether you agree with how the disparity has occurred, it is well known that white people are in a better financial situation than black people. That is well documented on every aspect. Less debt, higher income, come from more money, higher credit scores. So it makes sense that when we look at finances comparing white to black, that black people would be in a worse situation than white people. All right. While banks also approve white applicants at higher rates than black borrowers, the nearly 29% point gap in Navy Federal's approval rate was the widest of any of the 50 lenders that originated the most mortgage loans last year. The disparity remains even among white and black applicants who had similar incomes and debt to income ratio. So we're looking at people who make the same amount of money, let's say 100K, and the debt to income ratio is the same, let's just say 20%. Notably, Navy Federal approved a slightly higher percentage of applicants from white borrowers making less than $62,000 a year than it did of black borrowers making $140,000 or more. Now, here's the issue. Income should not be the only parameter when you're applying for a mortgage. Now, let's be very clear. If you do not know this, mortgages, I wouldn't say hardest, quote unquote, but is the most rigorous underwriting process you go through. They want everything, including your social. They want everything but your blood type, essentially. They want to know everything when you apply for a mortgage. So just using your income and your debt to income, your income and your debt to income ratio, those are not the only two data points used when you're getting a mortgage. So yes, when it's saying, hey, people who essentially black people made double than white people got approved for less, how much did they apply for the mortgage? Did they have the same credit score? And then we're talking about debt. So every time we see a data point here, I hope we have a credit score attached to it, but we don't. I don't care how much money you make when you're applying for debt, because I need to know your credit when you're applying for debt, right? We need to know your credit score. A deeper statistical analysis, here we go, performed by CNN found that black applicants to Navy Federal were more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, even when more than a dozen different variables, so we're talking about 12 plus, 13 or more, including income, debt to income ratio, property value, down payment percentage, and neighborhood characteristics were the same. Okay, well, I hope we get into these other data points because I want to be clear. Income, where's credit score at? We talking about applying for debt, and this type of debt is a mortgage, and we're not talking about credit score. And also, we didn't talk about here again. White people come from more wealth. We didn't talk about down payment assistance. So we already talked about how, hey, majority of these people at Navy Federal should have access to the VA loan because they were a service member or they're currently some type of service member, so they have access to VA loan that way, or right, their spouse would be one, which means you have access to the VA loan that way. We don't see that. We don't see anything about a credit score either. We don't see anything about down payment assistance. All right, y'all. Again, Virginia-based Navy Federal, which was originally founded in 1933, they used to only serve the Navy. It's now open to all members of armed forces. Again, DoD personnel. So if you do work for the federal government underneath the DoD, you can apply as well. Veterans and their relatives. Shout out to me being in this relatives situation. All right. I got in because my brother works for DoD. I mean, I could have got in via my dad, but my brother works for the DoD, and they were doing a program where you get $50. So I went and just got an account, got the $50. Now I actually use Navy for my credit card. Anyways, it has about 13 million members, Jesus, and more than 165 billion in assets. All right, this is Bob Otondi, whose application for a mortgage from Navy Federal was denied, speaks to CNN last month. All right, here we go. Mr. Bob, a black business owner in Texas. All right, business owners, we already know if you're a business owner, you're trying to get a loan, tough luck, let alone a mortgage. You need them W-2s, or you need to prove them income statements. And you need, hopefully, your income to be going up over the last 2 years. They need 2 years worth. All right. So some of y'all in a situation where your business makes a lot of money, a high gross, but after expenses, it's not that much left. And then once you take home money, it's not that much left. All right. Shout out to you running $1 million business, but you only made $50K. All right. They don't go off the fact that your business is making $1 million, or the way your business is set up. Your business has a lot of expenses tied to it. So they're looking like, I don't know about that. Let's be clear, when it comes to the underwriting process, just because you get your pre-approval letter, first off, what's pre-approval? That means it's not the approval letter. That means you're still waiting on the approval letter. So don't be mad if you get denied after you get your pre-approval letter, because they haven't approved you yet. It's a pre-approval. It's not the approval letter. All right, whatever. They still look at more stuff when you go through the underwriting process, which people are finding out, I guess. He was denied in 2021 and then approved by another lender in about 2 weeks. Okay, cool. Said the rejection didn't make any sense at all. I thought it could have been racial discrimination, but I could never prove it. All right. Shout out to this lending triad. In total, the credit union rejected about 3,700 black applicants from home purchase mortgages last year, so in 2022, potentially blocking them from home ownership just as interest rates spiked. And Navy Federal also approved Latino borrowers at significantly lower rates than white borrowers. See, and this is what I hate. See, this is supposed to be, in theory, a lot of data in this article. Just tell, what was the number that Latinos weren't approved versus black people, right? Versus black people, white people, and Latinos. What was the percentage numbers of them being approved? What does significantly lower mean than whites? I mean, what does that do for us? Navy Federal Credit Union's leading disparity between black and white applicants is greater than that of other large mortgage lenders. I don't think we'll get into this in the article, but I believe in 2018, so essentially pre-pandemic numbers, Navy Federal's gap was around, I think, 11% or 12%, definitely less than 20%. I feel like it was 11.8, which is why my brain's thinking 18%, but it was less than a 20% gap. So this is just within the last year and a half or so that this gap between white and blacks is from a approval standpoint is showing. So Navy Federal approval rates by race or ethnicity in 2022. All right, so we got white people at 77, Asians at 69, Native Americans at 64, Latinos at 56, and okay, here we go, blacks at 48. So we got 56% for Latinos. Look at me getting upset, and then they show it right here. I told you this is live. I do not read this ahead of time. Gap in approval rates between black and white applicants at Navy Federal and other large mortgage lenders in 2022. See, I'm amped up for this, y'all, and this is after work, and I still got hella energy. So Navy Federal Credit Union, can I hover over this and see? So that's about 20 or 25%. Look at Wells. So, woo! Look at Bank of America. Look how small Bank of America is. CQ, State Employees, Rocket Mortgage. Okay, so we're going Navy Federal, then Wells, and JP Morgan Chase, Rocket Mortgage, State Employees Credit Union, and Bank of America as far as disparity. All right. And see, this is where it's like, I'm not a statistician, but Navy Federal approves the least amount of white people and black people. And they also have the widest gap. So white people can complain and be like, hey, you have the least likely chance of getting approved at Navy, compared to these other, was it 6? Yeah, these other 5 mortgage companies on here. Navy approves the least amount of white people as well compared to this. This purple line is the approval rate for white people. All right, so if you want to get approved and you're white, you want to go to JP Morgan or Rocket Mortgage. If you're black, you want to get approved, you want to go to Rocket Mortgage. I mean, so this is also what the data is saying. Okay, note analysis covers Approval rates for conventional conforming home purchase mortgage loans for 1 to 4 unit properties that were intended to be used for primary residence and not intended to be used for business or commercial. Only applications that were fully submitted and then approved or denied are included. Right. All right, in a statement, Navy Federal spokesperson Bill Pearson, come on, Bill, come through, Mr. Pearson, defended the credit union's lending practices. Navy Federal Credit Union is committed to equal and equitable lending practices and strict adherence to all fair lending laws. Pearson said employee training, fair lending, statistical testing, third-party evaluations, and compliance reviews are embedded in our lending practices to ensure fairness across the board. Pearson said that CNN analysis, I keep wanting to say analysts. I don't know why I keep on saying analysts. CNN's analysis does not accurately reflect our practices because it did not account for major criteria required by any financial institution to approve a mortgage loan, probably like credit score. If we're talking about debt and you don't include credit score, then what are we talking about? Those factors include, look, the first option, credit score, available cash deposits, and relationship history. Relationship history with the lender. What did I told y'all? Y'all need to go in person to your financial institution and build a relationship with your lender. There are plenty of times where I've seen, hey, they don't pay bank A back, but they pay us back, and they want to get a loan with us. So that's not our issue. That's not our issue. Now, if you obviously, have to file bankruptcy, but if it's not you just don't pay that whatever bank back, whatever reason you didn't pay them back years ago, you don't bank there no more, you got collections or something. If you ain't never missed a payment with us, that's really what a financial institution is truly concerned about. Mortgage a little bit more hardcore, but as you see, Mr. Pearson is letting us know relationship history with lender. Now, excuse me, when it comes to the relationship history with the lender, and I was talking about the situation with him 500 promoting on Big Facts and EYL, and when you see all this stuff where you see people during the pandemic, so essentially they don't have any relationship history, right, since 2020, when applying for a mortgage. Because let's just simple math, you need to at least have more than 2 years at the financial institution you're applying for from a relationship history standpoint, because that's what they look for when you apply for a mortgage. They want 2 years, your last 2 years of income. So it makes sense from a mortgage standpoint, you got to be with them longer than the last 2 years. So this is 2022, right? Minus 2020. That's 2 years. So essentially, if black people went and started opening accounts in Navy Federal, whether fraudulently or not, it would make sense they wouldn't have a relationship history with them. So again, I don't know who CNN is, but CNN is not Navy Federal, so they can't speak directly to Navy Federal's practices. This isn't like a whistleblower type of situation where we got somebody with insider information. But the Navy Federal spokesperson, Bill Pearson, which I would assume is very good at his job, being that he's spokesperson for for Navy Federal, and he's speaking on this particular situation. He's letting y'all know, look, they left out major criteria like a credit score, and they talk about getting a mortgage, and they include credit score in the data. They didn't talk about available cash deposits, like cash they're going to have on hand. So, they got money, actually. Oh, and relationship history. Like, a lot of these black people, they ain't even been here that long. Quote, who are these niggas? Shouted out. What's Joanna man? What is his name? Miguel Nunez? No, that wasn't him. Oh, that wasn't him. Tommy Davidson. There we go. I don't know why I get them mixed up. Tommy Davidson on Breakfast Club. Who are these niggas? That's what Bill Pearson did not say. But that's what I'm saying. They ain't been here that long. They talking about they want a mortgage. And they don't got no military service. And we can't find an account for the person they talking about who had military service. So, dang, they got an account here. And by the way, they not a DOD employee. They got an account here. So, I mean, they in here. Okay. They qualified, I guess. They were in the field of membership, but we can't really find nothing military or DOD related for them. But hey, they got an account here, but they ain't been here that long. Wait a minute, y'all look at their credit score? Their credit score is trash. Okay. They ain't got no money either. No available cash deposits. Let's look up what available cash deposits is. Since, I just be making up stuff on here and I don't be knowing what I'm talking about. Let's see if we can get a definition of available cash deposits so we can explain this for the people. Okay. Oh. Tis. Here we go. This money can be made available. Okay, that's not the definition. Anyways, sorry, do you got money? Available cash deposits, liquid cash sitting in your bank account. That's probably outside of the down payment. Again, what? Shout out to these internet timestamps. Where to Gary V? I've been telling y'all the most amount of money people have ever had in their life is their down payment. They don't have any money on top of that. They say they're 3.5%, at 10,000, 15,000, whatever it is, and they really got no other money. That's why people be moving into these houses with no damn furniture. We know you don't got no furniture because we see you posting your house and you outside in a lawn chair. What are we talking about? But that information is not available in public mortgage data. Oh, no. And this is where it's technically CNN. It was CNN Business, but CNN.com. All right. This is where it gets confusing. CNN, which is one of the largest, if not the largest news network. When I say largest, popularity, notoriety standpoint, CNN got resources. I hope they got resources. CNN going out of business? I don't know. But you're going to post this and be like, all right, y'all, we're going to talk about people's debt situation in Navy Federal when it comes to getting a mortgage. But the data we have does not include the credit score. No one was like, hey, this is why I can't be in charge and be involved in certain things. This is why I work in computers. I can't be in these type of meetings. We're going to talk about people's debt and not include a credit score? And it's going to be a racial type of article? This isn't like, a general fund. This is, racial tension. I mean, goodness gracious. We're not going to talk about a credit score? Not to mention, they didn't mention that Navy Federal out of the 6 banks that we've seen. Again, I'm going to bring this up real quick so we can see it. Between Navy Federal, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, Rocket Mortgage, State Employees Credit Union, aka CQ, and Bank of America, Navy Federal also approved, out of these 6 financial institutions, they approved the least amount of white people as well. Okay. So it makes sense that they approved the least amount of black people. Now we're talking about how large should the disparity be. But based off of this, I was going to say, it's sort of, the less white people you approve, the wider the gap almost as black people are going to approve. It sort of is showing, not directly, but kind of close. All right, but I mean, no credit score. That's crazy. But it's not publicly available. Navy Federal declined to release additional data about its loans to CNN that included borrowers' credit scores, other variables. Why would they? It's private information. If you want people's credit scores, you need to contact the 3 bureaus. In addition, most of Navy Federal applicants that were denied are listed as being rejected for reasons other than credit history. By some measures, Navy Federal has been successful at lending to minority borrowers. 1/4 of its conventional mortgage applicants are black, and about 18% of conventional loans it originated went to black borrowers, a larger portion than almost any other large lender. Here we go. Talking about data. So even though they approved the least amount of black people percentage-wise, they gave out a larger portion than almost any other lender to black people. So even though Steph Curry, I don't know if he will, but he'll likely go down with the most 3-pointers missed all time. Let me think. It might be him already. It's James Harden. Shout out to James Harden. James Harden, I think, been in the league a little bit longer. I think he came in the league at the same time. I'm going on a tangent. Let me not do that. I'm going to stop that. James Harden right now, just, if you understand what I'm about to say, then, skip ahead 10 seconds. But James Harden has missed the most 3-pointers all time. But on a per game basis, he misses almost 5. And then Steph has got probably a higher percentage. So Steph on a per game basis has missed more. In short, if you shoot a lot of threes, it makes sense that you might miss a lot of them too. Now, he might make a lot as well, which Steph and James do. But if Navy Federal, what they don't tell us is who had the most black applicants for conventional mortgage, these type of mortgage, conventional mortgages. Who had the most? And if it's Navy, well, it might make sense that they might not approve the most amount of black people either because they got so many more. And then we see in here, Navy, about 18% of conventional loans that originated went to black borrowers. Put it like this. 18% isn't that much out of all your mortgages. So let's call it 20%, which is a larger portion than almost any other large lender. So most lenders aren't even giving out 15%. This is saying. So even though Navy didn't approve that many black people, they denied more black people than anybody in 2022. They still gave out a larger portion to most institutions. What you want them to do? What that means is that they probably had a lot of black applications. It's going to be very hard for us to deny more black people than anybody percentage-wise, and also be able to give out a larger portion. Let me getting upset and tongue-tied. How we got more applicants approved and more applicants denied? That means we got a lot of applicants. Shout out to Navy Federal. Most black applicants with the same large, almost large any other. See, this is the thing. You want to tell us that they denied the most, but you won't tell us where they rank as far as people that they approved. But it looks like they denied the most black people and they almost approved the most black people. It's like, dang, that sounds like a lot of applications to me. But because of large racial disparity in Navy Federal's approval rates, even though more black borrowers are applying for conventional mortgage loans from the credit union, most of them are getting denied. And this says most here again. I think it's, most here means more than 50%. I think it was 52% were denied and 48% were approved. Experts in mortgage lending and advocates for fair housing said that the racial gaps in Navy Federal's approval rates were surprisingly large and raised questions about the institution's lending practices. Lisa Rice, the president and CEO of the National Fair Housing Alliance. Who's Lisa Rice? Let's see if we can look up Lisa Rice. See who this is before we look at what Lisa Rice had to say. This is shout out to Anton Daniels. I hope he does this when he goes over this. If he does, shout out to Lisa Rice. All right. Anyways, let's see if we can find her background real quick. Okay, Lisa Rice. Published author, several books and journals addressing a range of fair housing issues, including these books. She played a major role in crafting sections of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. I typed in that wrong. She went to bowling. Okay, here we go. Oh, so this is her LinkedIn? Now, let me not go on my LinkedIn. That'd been wild. Let's not go too crazy, Cory. All right, we're going to leave it at that. Anyway, shout out to Lisa Rice. Racial gaps in Navy Federal is, according to Lisa Rice, lending identified by CNN. Okay, largest they've ever seen, according to Lisa Rice. This is quite stark disparity. Rice said, it's unusual for us to see instances where the lender denies more loans than it approves. Experts said that Navy Federal's racial disparities appear to be an especially extreme example of a larger national problem. Exactly, because Navy Federal talking about, dang, y'all mad how many black people we denied, but we out here giving more black people loans percentage-wise too. So don't look at us for everything. The credit union's gap between white and black approval rates has jumped significantly in recent years, which means if it jumped and they saying our lending practice doesn't change, and since we're talking about black people, we got to look at the black applicants. And among all lenders, the racial approval rate gap has also grown. More broadly, the gap in home ownership rates between, white and black is larger today. Okay, before civil rights era, this is well known. It's a key driver of wealth. Okay, we know that. Yes, wealth is important. I mean, houses are important for wealth. Good job. Navy Federal member says rejection left him feeling shocked and hurt. When Bob Otondi, Mr. Bob, went house hunting in the summer of 2021, he immediately knew when he found his dream home. The 3-bedroom house in the Lakeside neighborhood of Dallas suburb. Open kitchen, okay, expensive backyard. He liked this house. Most importantly, it was a great school district, okay, for his son. Okay. Mr. Bob was thrilled when his bid for the home was approved and expected that his mortgage application with Navy Fed would be smooth sailing. The relative of Navy service members. Mr. Bob had been a Navy Federal customer for years, so he's not in the short relationship history situation. The credit union had pre-approved him. He said he successfully paid off several previous Navy Federal vehicle loans, and he had budgeted a down payment of more than 20% of the home's value. But, and by the way, so these markers are all in his favor. Here's the but, right? So remember, but just denies everything before it. Just weeks before he was scheduled to close on the purchase, Mr. Bob got bad news. Navy denies application. The credit union told him in a form letter that had concluded his income was not high enough to account for his debt. So either it was or it wasn't. We're going to get into the actual data. I hope so, CNN. Mr. Bob said the last minute denial didn't make sense. Okay, the last denial did make sense. You didn't have the approval letter. So that means they can still deny you. What are we doing? This is why I be getting my wife on this sometimes. But it's like we got to start making use of the correct words. He didn't have the approval letter. He admits he had the pre-approval letter. So it means he didn't have the approval letter. Now he's upset that he didn't get the approved letter. Where's it at? Where he admits he had the approval letter. Mr. Bob, where are you talking about you getting your pre-approval letter? Whatever. All right. So he's mad that he didn't get that. According to the documents he provided to CNN, he was made. Now we don't want to know about the documents you gave to CNN. What documents did you give to Navy? He was making more than $100,000. They didn't say he didn't make enough money. Like I said, he was making $100K. They talk about his debt to income ratio. Okay, the credit union told him in a form letter that it concluded his income was not high enough to account for his debts. Okay, his income was not high enough to account for his debt. So thanks to CNN, we don't care how much money he made. He made $100K a year from his logistics business. I can tell you right now, $100K a year for his logistics business. He was making $100K. How much was his house? See, they don't tell us how much his house was. He had a credit score above 700. That's not good. His credit score was just about, they're like 150 credit points above 700. Was above 760? Because if it was just above 700, and like that means it could have been 701, by the way, which means like, he said he didn't have significant debts. They didn't talk about, it's not for you to determine. I don't understand this. When did people under hierarchy, power structure, you asking Navy for money? It's their determination on whether or not you got too much debt, not yours. And let's be clear. Listen to Cory and FinallyFit podcast. Shout out to Dave Ramsey. We recommend you ain't have no debt when you apply for the mortgage anyway. But nobody wants to take that route. When we say when you apply for a mortgage, don't have any debt, it will help you avoid the situation. He didn't want to do that. So now you're leaving up to their discretion. Now they can't, if you don't have any debt, they can't say you have too much debt by definition. In the heat of the pandemic era housing market, Mr. Bob feared he would lose the home. He was stunned, shocked, and hurt. We don't really care. He said he had been driving by the house with his son and daughter. Well, now you're emotionally invested. We definitely don't recommend you do that. Don't drive by the house with your son and daughter every week, and the kids had already planned out decorations for their rooms. That's on him. That has nothing to do with Navy or CNN or me or anybody else. That was your decision. Navy was like, boy, I don't know. You should have did that. To go back home and tell them, guys, we lost the house. I mean, devastating. That what does that have to do with Navy? No, I'm ruthless. Hey, bro, Mr. Bob, Mr. Atondi, and I'm calling Mr. Bob because I don't want to I hate pronouncing people's names wrong. So that's why I'm not doing that facetiously, tongue in cheek. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. But Mr. Bob, and I'm calling you Mr. Bob as well, out of respect because I don't know how to pronounce your name. Nobody told you to do that, and that don't do this. There are some things I rarely do. I be like, don't do this. Don't take your kids by the house if you have not got the house yet enclosed and signed all that paperwork. The one great thing about a house, right, is that you got to sign a lot of paperwork to get it. You sign more paperwork to get a house than you do when you got to sign for your kid before you leave the hospital. All right. Mr. Bob's realtor, Angela Cressini, connected him with another mortgage lender who approved him for a loan in about 2 weeks. I bet she did, because when I'm not saying this is the case, but usually there's a relationship that the real estate agent may or may not have with who they're recommending you to from a lender standpoint when you're getting your mortgage. And so it's just best for business, right? You scratch my back, I scratch yours type of situation. And the purchase went through. Because what if the real estate, I'm trying to calm down. If the real estate agent, by definition, they're out here selling and buying homes for people or helping people sell and buy homes. So mortgage is like, hey, you gonna always, be in this real estate game? Yeah. Oh, dang, you doing over 100 houses? Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. How many people buyers? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just let us know. We'll approve them quickly. Yeah. Just make sure this is the paper they do. Yeah. Boom, bang. Right. That helps both of them. There was no real reason he shouldn't have gotten the loan from Navy Federal. This is not your decision, Miss Angela. This is not your decision. I don't know why everybody's trying to tell Navy Federal what to do with their money. Okay. Where are the financial experts on the mortgage banking side of things? You're a real estate agent, Miss Angela. That's not your decision. Now, if you have previous underwriting experience, please let us know. But right now, they're telling us that you're a real estate agent. How can one lender get a loan done within 15 days and this other one couldn't at all? What do you mean they couldn't do it at all? They denied him. What you mean? What does that mean? It didn't bring what? How can one lender get a loan done within 15 days and this other one couldn't at all? This is not about time to process the loan. Also, too, let's be very clear. Shout out to the panorama where people was getting houses crazy. And we talk about, hold on. Didn't we just talk about last episode, 93% of people regret their purchase for their house? We in a paradox. This is Pandora, paradox, Pandora's box, or whatever they'll call Matrix. This is insanity. And this is 2021 where he had the situation Mr. Bob did with this house. So peak. This is what Jordan got his house. This is peak pandemic housing market as far as very low interest rates and people buying houses. Obviously, she's saying this. Hindsight is crazy. Miss Angela is talking about how, and by the way, why is this financial institution nameless? We talking about Navy. Pull up. I can't say pull up your Mint no more. Mint is now transitioned over to Credit Karma. I'm gonna say pull up your receipts. By the way, receipts by definition is proof of evidence. Where's your evidence? Who was this financial institution that did it in 15 days? In the same time period where people are roughly saying that almost everybody regret buying their home in some form or fashion. We talk about people was buying houses 100K over asking price. People was buying houses over asking price, not doing inspections, and not even seeing that the house was actually there. They didn't even been to the house. Buying houses unseen. What? Yeah, this financial institution I know, they did it in 15 days. That's not good. They completed the entire underwriting process for a mortgage in 15 days, had no information about Mr. Bob before 16 days, but 15 days later, yeah, we gave you. What are we talking about, yo? It don't ring right to me that they approved him. They did the entire underwriting process for a mortgage in 15 days, and they had no information on him. What are we? That's Mr. Bob all said. I'm sorry, but if he in his house, hey, shout out to you being in the house, especially if he could afford it and it's good for his financial situation. Mr. Bob, a Texas business owner whose mortgage application was denied by Navy Fed working at his home. All right, now we're back to Mr. Pearson, the Navy spokesperson. Declined to comment on Mr. Bob's denial. He don't know Mr. Bob. He don't know that explicit situation, saying that our members' personal and account information are private. Yeah, what are y'all talking about? Navy not just about to start disclosing everybody's situation about what? I want to be very clear. Shout out to the HIPAA. Shout out to HIPAA. Shout out to the HIPAA. Shout out to the HIPAA Act. HIPAA Privacy Act. People care more. I want to be very clear. I want to be very, very, very clear. People care more about their financial information than they do their medical information. It is not even close, because you will find out that someone at your job got cancer before you find out how much money they make. So y'all gonna tell me y'all don't? Are y'all gonna tell me you don't know people who you work with medical situation at all? They gotta go doctor for this or that. But I bet you don't know how much money they make. Okay. Shout out to HIPAA, right? We need more, privacy for our health information, but people care way more, infinitely more about their money than they do their medical information. All right. As he sat in the airy living room of the 3-bedroom, I think we're about close to halfway done, y'all. As we sat in the airy living room in the 3-bedroom home last month, Mr. Bob said he was still frustrated. Oh, why are you still frustrated? Move on. You got your house, man. Even if you didn't get the house, right? Resentment there. But my goodness, he said he submitted complaints to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the federal agency that oversees our consumer lending, as well as our Texas state agency, both of which went nowhere. It's like, yeah, bro, you shouldn't have got this loan. Because you know what? The financial institutions, they got more information and insight on what's going on in the economy than you do. It's just one person. They probably seeing these numbers like, yo, yeah, people not liking the situation, when it comes to the mortgages. I'm going to keep it a buck. Hearing about the larger racial disparities and Navy Federal's mortgage approvals made him think the credit union was inhibiting veterans and their families from just uplifting themselves, Mr. Bob said. CNN's analysts, are they analysts? CNN's analysis doesn't prove. Give me 1 second, y'all. My bad, y'all. All right. So CNN's analysis doesn't prove that Navy Federal discriminated against any borrowers. What? So if there's no discrimination, why do we care that there's a big gap? The whole point is there racial discrimination going on? But it does show significant disparities in credit union approval rates. Well, anybody could tell you that. For borrowers of different races. What? And that it has larger racial gaps than many other large institutions. But so we're talking about, so CNN is going to tell us that they don't prove, it doesn't prove that Navy Federal discriminated against any borrowers. They also told us that Navy Federal, they did deny more black borrowers than anybody. They also based off the 6 institutions we saw, they also denied more white borrowers than anybody. What we also saw based off of CNN data is that Navy Federal gave out more loans to black people from an approval standpoint, percentage-wise, than almost anybody. What are we talking about here? The analysis was made based on data collected under the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, which requires most financial institutions to report anonymized information on mortgage applications to the government, including applicants' race. CNN analysis focused specifically on conventional home purchase mortgages for homes intended to be used, primary residence, not intended for business. The type of, a house for your primary residence type of loan they're talking about. CNN analyzed loan applicants that were ultimately approved or denied by lenders, not those that were withdrawn by borrowers before the decision was made. In 2020, so this is their disclaimer about the type of data, how they got their data. In 2022, according to the data, and by the way, CNN also told us, hey, we ain't had a credit score. We talking about, people getting approved for debt, and we didn't use a credit score. We couldn't access that data because it's private. 2022, according to the data, Navy Fed approved 77.1% of white applicants. So they got around 2% less white applicants. I believe it's 75%, 55.8% of Latino applicants, and 48.5% black applicants. This is in 2022. So this is the issue that they're talking about. The 28.6 percentage point gap between black and white applicants was by far the largest gap among the 50 financial institutions that originated the most conventional home purchase loans last year, which includes Navy Fed. In comparison, Wells Fargo, shout out to Wells Fargo, had roughly 19.5% gap between its black and white. U.S. Bank had a 10-point gap. Bank of America had a 3.5 gap. The second largest credit union in the country, CQ, State Employees Credit Union, had a 5.4 gap. Now, again, I haven't seen every social media post. I'm not aware of Wells Fargo, U.S. Bank, State Employees Credit Union, or CQ, and Bank of America having it be told or shown, I say, but have their name been thrown around by black financial quote unquote experts. I'm not a black financial expert, quote unquote, but we see it out there. People telling you go scam getting your account as far as opening a Navy and having this fraudulent information as far as getting your account, applying for loans, fraudulent loans at Navy Federal. I'm not aware these financial institutions had that situation. All right. Navy Federal's racial disparities remain when comparing only applicants with the same incomes or debt. No, we don't care about incomes and debt to income ratios. The credit union approved 60%, 59.3% of applicants from black applications making 140% or more. Those in the top, and this is what we're talking about. So we got 60% for black people who make, well above the median income in America. Those in the top quarter of applicants by income and 59.8% of white applicants making less than 60%. So 0.5% is what we're seeing here as far as the difference. All right. Black applicants had lower approval rates than those of other racial gaps at every income level. Navy Federal Credit Union's loan approval rates were black. Okay, all the races here. White applicants with the lowest income. Look at this arrow. White applicants with the lowest income. They're right at 60%, 61K or less. You applying for a mortgage, and that's one thing we're not seeing too. How much did they apply for the house? See, we're seeing incomes as far as 140K versus 62K here, but we're not seeing how much they actually apply for from a housing standpoint and as far as their mortgage. And that's what we need to see too. So these people who apply for 62K, these white people, if they only applied for a home that was, I don't know, no more than 2 times, 3 times max of their loan, and we got black people with 140K applying for 5 to 6 times, we have to look at that. But they don't have this, probably don't have this data for us. All right, 62 to 94K. Okay, cool. We can hover over this data. White applicants with the lowest incomes. Why do they have, look, this is were what type of data? You're not supposed to have this on a graph. White applicants with the lowest incomes were approved at a slightly higher rate than black applicants with the highest incomes. Okay. I mean, white people were approved higher than black people regardless of their income. Okay. My guess is other financial institutions probably have something similar. I mean, shout out to the wealth gap, which they're trying to talk about here. Not that there is a gap. We all know about the gap, but the size of the gap. To figure out the size of the gap, see, admitting that white people have a better financial situation than black people, nobody has issue admitting that. So now the question is, why is the gap as wide as it is? And to get into that, you almost have to get into on a case-by-case scenario as far as how people are actually using their money, right? It's not, broke or frugal, it's wealth conscious. It's about seeing how these people are managing their money overall. And let's be very clear, if it is well known that white people have more resources as far as an individual applicant, right? If I'm looking at a white applicant and a black applicant, all the data shows this white applicant is more likely to be able to tap into resources from their immediate family, their parents, in-laws, than these black people are. Everybody agrees with that. Never mind. We can't admit that white people are in a better situation than black people and complain when the data shows that over and over again. Which is it? Which is it? Now Navy's supposed to give more black people loans. I'm gonna look at this data. Isn't the data in that black people are doing worse financially? Like, we're not like our population is going down, but like our net worth is going down. Let me look at the black net worth. See, who got this AI generating thing, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna look at the black net worth one of these days. I don't understand. I understand people trying to figure out why the gap was so wide, which makes sense. But if it's very clear that there were no laws broken, let's be very clear. If Navy did racial discrimination, that's against the law. Right? It's not like, oh, they messed up. That would be against the law. All right. But you really have to look on a case by case basis. And we're not going to talk about how these student loans are starting back up, and it's well known that black people got more student loans. Isn't it well known that? Never mind. See, we won't get into we have all this data about black people, right? To my knowledge, black women are getting more houses than black men, have more mortgages, however you want to look at it. But black women also have more student loan debt, right? So you had this pause in student loan debt, but a day applying for you start looking at the data, and it's like the situation isn't good when we talk about black people from a financial standpoint, overall, holistically. Now, on a case-by-case basis, you can find situations, but just looking at straight up at income or debt-income ratio, that's not good enough. Because when you talk about applying for a mortgage, let alone a car, how much was this payment? See, how much was the payment going to be of their income? Where's that data at? Do we have that? Don't tell me, did they have access to the amount they applied for the mortgage? Please tell me they did. Okay, let me get off my soapbox. Okay, significant racial disparities is more, okay, while holding constant more than a dozen, okay, different variables, talking about CNN's analysis. Okay, so they did have the loan amount, that income ratio of the person's income, property value, and the neighborhood socioeconomic makeup. Why don't we have all the data points? What's more than a dozen? You only give us what, 6? Income, debt income, loan amount, property value, and neighborhood socioeconomic makeup. That's 5. That's 5 data points. You said you got 13, at least 13. You only showing us half of the data points. Probably because other data points is trash. Even among applicants who were identical among all those these are not good variables for a mortgage. Let's be. Property value, neighborhood socioeconomic makeup. That has nothing to do with you as an individual. That has nothing. You don't determine the property value nor this neighborhood socioeconomic makeup. That's not on you. That's nothing to do with black people or white people. Okay, loan amount. Well, I want to see the loan amount. So even when people were identical among all these variables, so they made the same income, had the same debt income ratio, they had the same. How many? Identical? How many? You're telling me that among 13 different variables, people had the same income. They had the exact same income, not $1,000 difference. They had the same income, the same debt to income ratio. By the way, debt to income ratio, let's be very, very clear. What type of debt? All right, what type of debt? On top of this, with income, what type of income? Because again, if I'm in a situation where I make $62K, right, but I'm a disabled white veteran and I'm getting 80 or 90%, that's different income than you being, in the case of Mr. Bob here, a business owner. They know my income not going nowhere, and my income has a chance to increase and not go anywhere. You don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. But the chances that you're telling me that over 13 data points, you had multiple people with the same ones. I don't know anybody, same income, same DTI, the same loan amount. These people made the same amount of money, had the same debt income ratio, and the loan amount they applied for. By the way, the chances that you apply for the same loan amount and the property value was the same. Right, so the property value was the same and the same loan amount. So the house was worth $300,000 and the loan amount was for $200,000. That means they're down. They had the same down payment as well. You're telling me people had made the same amount of money, had the same DTI, had the same loan amount, had the same property value, and they had the same amount of down payment? and the neighborhood's socioeconomic makeup. I can say socioeconomic makeup. Among applicants with the same or identical variables, the analysis found Black applicants are more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, and Latino applicants were roughly 85% more likely to be denied than white applicants. This holds true. But Latinos are doing better than Black people. What's wrong with this? They're saying Black people are more than 100%, and as far as I'm saying twice, and then we add Latinos at 85%. What's wrong with this data? Let's look at this chart. It's Latinos in the green. The Latinos green, Asians in blue. What's wrong with this data? What's wrong with this data? I don't see anything wrong with the data. When we look at other financial information, this is all the same. This is what it looks like. We got white people first, then Asian people. When we do these overall racial groups, we got the 4 major groups of white, Asian, Hispanic, and Black. That's the order. What's wrong with this data? Y'all mad about how wide the data is? What? If you lose, you lose. The analysis did not take applicants because of no credit scores into account because the public data released under the home. Okay, it didn't include credit scores. Well, that's very important. That means that at least part of the racial disparity could possibly be explained by, you think? White and minority borrowers. Discrepancy might be due to credit score when we're talking about applying for debt. And you decided to release an article about people being able to get debt without having access to the people's credit score, which is the initial, not the main, but the initial thing that we use to see if you're going to be able to pay back the debt, because your credit score is essentially a score of how good you are with debt, your ability to pay it back or not be able to pay it back, how much that you have, your utilization, how much you take out debt, any derogatory marks, collections. Oh, we didn't have that information. We had no access to that. Right. Okay. Black borrowers in particular tend to have lower. I swear to God, I do not read these articles at a time. Black borrowers. It's CNN. Who did this? I forgot who did this. Whose dog is this? Again, Casey, Audrey, and Renee. Okay. I get Casey and Renee could, those could be men, but my guess is it's all 3, women. Let's be clear. Do better. Y'all didn't do the I don't know I think y'all just wrote the article. I'm not sure if y'all did the y'all analyze the data. So let me give y'all a pass. Actually, y'all just write an article. Black borrowers in particular, according to CNN, tend to have lower credit scores, which makes sense. People with lower credit scores should get denied more, right? Or do we disagree with that? In part, now we got to talk about why Black people have lower credit scores. Credit scores, the wealth is one thing. Everybody has. I promise you, I didn't read what they're about to say about why Black people have low credit scores. Credit scores has nothing to do with race. Everybody started as the same situation with a credit score. Now, unless they want to say that Black people got low credit score due to their family members, their parents, whoever, identity theft. Okay. Black people have lower credit scores in part due to the impact of historical discrimination and a continuing lack of access to the traditional financial institutions in Black neighborhoods, according to researchers. No. Who are the researchers? No. I want to be very clear. Credit. If you want to talk about wealth, you can talk about wealth. Credit score? Whoa, I'd be so mad. This is why I wish Jordan was here, because then we talking about I just have all this random information. Do y'all remember when the credit score came out? Y'all hear me clicking and clacking on my keyboard? Let's look at when the credit score came out. Now, remember, CNN is telling us Black people have lower credit scores, in part due to the impact of historical discrimination and continuing lack of access to traditional financial institutions in Black neighborhoods, according to research. So the credit score is due to historical issues. This is gonna make me feel old. The credit score the first credit score was introduced in 1989. So you tell them, so again, us 90s babies, right? We're like, oh, what you mean y'all had for Spirit Week, y'all was dressing up like how we did. We not old enough to be are we old enough to be in Spirit Week yet? You telling me that something that came out in 1999 now is having a historical impact on Black people? Let's be clear. For your credit score, that's something most people get when they turn 18. So we're talking about the average home buyer being at least 30 now. I believe so. because the home buyer age is going up and up and up. This is telling me 26 years old. Jesus Christ. It's saying 26. That's 18 years worth of credit history. So if we want to go 18 years from now, we're talking about 2005. So at that time, the credit score would have been out for, what is that? 11 years plus 5. So we're talking about 16 years. We're talking about people on average at 36 buying a home. So they had credit score 18 years. And we're talking about discrimination for something that came out. It says 1989, not and a half, 1889. Okay. Shout out to Jim Crow. We're talking about 1989. No. The data does, however, include information on the reasons that applicants were denied. Okay, why were they denied? Of the Navy federal applications for Black borrowers that were rejected, less than a fourth were listed as being denied because of credit history. Notably, the racial disparities in Navy Federal's approval rates have increased over time. And I know people weren't denied due to their credit history. Let's be, you would, if your credit was bad, they probably wouldn't give you the pre-approval. Let's be clear. They're looking more and more into your financial situation. Like if you come and sit down with me, they would do something like I would do. I'm going to go over your entire financial situation. Be like, oh, you ain't got no money. I know you think you got money, but you don't got no money. you don't have any money. You're not liquid at all. Okay, all your wealth is tied up in your retirement assets. You have no money, and after you put down this down payment, you're gonna be broke. What happened? What you gonna do if something happen? You about to default. Interest rates is going up. Oh yeah, it's about to be a mess. Because you're not gonna be able to pay these property taxes the way the housing market is going. Your property tax is gonna jump, and then also too, the valuation of your home going up, thus your property tax is going up. Then on top of that, that means your insurance gonna go up too for you. Oh, you're not gonna be able to afford this. Remember, this is most people getting a 30-year. This is a 30-year evaluation they're looking at if you're gonna be able to pay back the loan over 30 years. That's what they're assessing here. It's not no 60 term for a car loan. 2018, the difference between white and Black people approval rates were 11.5 percentage points, far smaller than 28%, so more than double. All right, it's 11.5%, like I was saying earlier. Jose Loya, a UCLA professor who has studied racial gaps in mortgage approvals and reviewed CNN's analysis, called the disparities in Navy Federal's lending alarming. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not spending dead air. What, Jose? A UCLA professor who has studied racial gaps in mortgage approvals. What experience do you have from a financial institution standpoint? We don't care about what you studied. Are you well versed in the financial institution or mortgage lending, underwriting, anything like that? Because I'm analyzing data too. Hell, shit. I mean, excuse me. It does not. What? As I think Dave Ramsey says, you got a shop teacher who's missing fingers. He don't know how to cut. You got a business teacher in college who ain't never had a business. You got people here telling y'all about how to manage your money, and they don't have no. At least I got financial institution experience. At least I done paid off my debt. Married in debt, but we better pay off again. So I'm gonna be well versed in paying off debt aggressive. I'm fortunate to do it twice. What are we talking about? So I do a couple things twice now. What are we talking about? Where's Professor Jose Loya's experience when it comes to actual financial information? Just studying data, looking at data points. Well, here, let me assess the data for you, Professor Loya. And I'm not a professor. I have a bachelor's, so I'm not a professor. Almost every single financial point, as far as like the good financial points, like how many people are getting approved for mortgages, because mortgages build wealth, right? Black people are going to be at the bottom on the 4 major races, as far as white, Asian, Latino, and Black. In that order is usually going to be the financial situation. Every now and then you'll have Black and Latinos flipped, and every now and then you'll have Asians and white people flipped. But you'll never see Black people above 3rd place. You'll never see Asians above 3rd place, and you'll never see never see Latinos above 3rd place. You never see Latinos or white below 2nd. And if you do see that, please send me that article. I'd love to see that data on that particular situation on a positive aspect. That's always going to be the data. Now we're talking about the gap. So why is the gap so wide? Oh wait, it does not surprise me that they're doing significantly worse than other big lenders because of Navy Federal status as a credit union. What? Does he not know who Navy Federal is? Navy Federal is a credit union because they're a credit union, but we're talking about they money. Nah, Navy is bigger than a lot of banks. They're not again, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, again, they're a credit union, so they have limited membership. But let's be clear, Navy is Navy got their money. Let me look at it. Let's see if we can figure out real quick the largest financial institutions by assets. Now, see, this is banks. Yeah, Bank of China on here. Yeah, see, this is bank. I don't like that it's just banks. It's probably $1 billion. Yeah, billions of dollars. They said Navy had what, 165 billion. So I wonder if I can cross-reference this. Yeah, bank rate. All right, man. Just to give a general parameter, this is bank rate telling us. Look, first this is the first one is I can't remember which one went away when those banks crashed, but Navy's at 165, and we got top 15 being at 209 billion. Which I mean, there could be a lot of banks in between here, but Navy is not just some credit union. So because they're a credit union, that means they would, have this issue. I mean, the big lender you're comparing, you can't compare anybody to Bank of America unless they're Wells or Capital or JP. Like you can't compare anybody to the people who have trillions of dollars in assets, not billions, but trillions. Okay, they have 1,000 billion, multiple thousands of billions in assets. You can't do that. But again, I'm not a professor who studied racial gaps in mortgage approval, so what do I know? Well, maybe widening the gap. I can tell you what widening the gap. Never mind. Niggas. All right. The decision to approve or deny a mortgage application is largely made by automated underwriting systems, which they're going to talk about probably the code being racist now. The code is racist. And advocates have been, let me say this, not saying that the code is racist, but you can code, for the people who develop code program, you can make it do whatever you want. So when you do see Blacks as African American and they check this box, you can assign a particular, thing like that in your system. You can do that. I don't think people do that though. And advocates have been pushing lenders like Navy Federal to improve those systems to reduce racial disparities. In recent years, some banks have changed their underwriting systems, taking into account additional data that can reduce those racial disparities, such as including applicants' history of paying rent. Okay, now Black people are less likely to own, which means they're more likely to rent. And a calculation of their credit worthiness. They're already talking about doing that eventually, updating credit. Pearson, the Navy Federal spokesperson, said rental history was incorporated into the credit union. Oh my God. Yo, my shift kind of has already started. Excuse me if you hear my wife, my son in the background. That's because my son, like, yo, it's your turn to take over. I want to be very clear. I do not read the articles ahead of time. They're saying that Navy needs to include rent. Okay. The spokesperson, Mr. Pearson, Mr. Mill has been killing it, said rental history was incorporated into the credit union's underwriting process, but did not provide. Why he need to provide additional details? Y'all asked if they included it or not. He said yes. What else you need to know? Yes is a complete sentence, as well as no. Some experts pointed out Navy Federal's member base of service members, veterans, and their families may have a different financial picture than the general public that large banks serve, which could explain some of the racial disparities. No. If you want to get paid the same amount of money and know how much money you're gonna make, join the military. The one thing people in the military do not do is make a lot of money. This is well known. It's public information. Now, the one benefit that people who, to all of our service members out there and all of our veterans out there, if you're a disabled veteran, like I said, do y'all, and again, I found this out due to my current situation, being that my wife's a disabled veteran. When I found out how much money you can get for being 100%, I said, what the hell? This was never explained to me. Y'all, you gonna get $45,000 a year if you're 100% disabled. So when they talk about people's financial situation, again, that's free and clear, not tax. Does not get. It's tax money, right? It's coming from the federal government. So how many? Again, I want to know how many of these Black applicants were military, and out of them that were military, compared to white people that were military, now there are more white people in the military than Black people. But out of that, how many of them is disabled? And then out of people that were disabled, what are their disability ratings? See, if I got $45,000 a year, which is more than $3,600 a month, guaranteed coming in on the first of every month. That, by the way, Navy already knows it's coming in because they the ones who are likely getting the money. If you got $3,600 a month coming in, and that's not including your job, What are we talking about here? And these are the data points that we really need to talk about. But some experts are saying that due to the people being service members, let's be clear, if you retire military, and again, Navy's base being, I would say, a majority of Navy's non-active duty members, obviously people, in the military, they live all over the entire planet. Where people who are no longer in the military, I would say a good amount of them, being the Navy's base in Virginia, are in this, DC, Baltimore metropolitan area. The amount of money these retired military and these veterans can get joining the military, getting disability money, and coming out and working for the federal government or working as a government contractor, please. This money is crazy out here. What are we talking about? What experts? What experts are you talking about? Yes, it's more likely that people at the larger banks make more money because, there are more people at the banks by definition, again, just based off of assets alone. But to sit here and act like people in the military have no money. Remember, two people in the military have access to the VA loan. I know this is based off of conventional loans, but again, these people who did this, again, at Navy, they more than likely or not at Navy, you have access to the VA loan because you get into Navy by essentially being in the military. So these people chose to do the conventional loan. When really they probably should do the VA loan, but this is probably going to be a set of people on the Black people side who, because remember, when you do a VA loan and you disable only at 10%, you don't have to pay the funding fee, which is sort of the same thing as PMI. All right. So unless from a conventional loan standpoint, yeah, it might look better when you're applying as far as all the different bids that go in, but you're probably going to be better off doing the VA loan. But hey, we're not. It is what it is. The gap between black and white mortgage applicants has widened. Okay, white people going to be in purple here, black people going to be in yellow. Yellow's gold. Okay, this is the gap that we talked about. In addition, let me see how much longer I got. Okay, we're almost done because that's the end of it. Okay, we're almost done, y'all. In addition, unlike large banks, Navy Federal isn't subject to the Community Reinvestment Act, which encourages lenders to make loans in low and middle income neighborhoods, which federal regulators review banks lending under the act. They don't do so for credit unions and other non-bank lenders. So remember when they said earlier in this article how Navy has given more approvals to black people than almost any other large lender, but then they try and tell us here that Navy isn't in a program where they're required to give money to low and middle income neighborhoods, which are more likely to have black people percentage-wise. So if Navy was in this program, wouldn't they probably have even more? They probably have more black applicants denied, right? They have more black applicants overall, and so they have more black applicants denied and approved. So Navy isn't in a program where they essentially have to approve more black people, but yet they're approving more black people than almost everybody. So I think that this paragraph is in Navy's favor, not against them. Some advocates of banking groups have been calling for years for revisions to the law to require credit unions to follow the same rules. Our legislators have given a huge pass to credit unions on the assumption that they're serving and meeting the needs of their members, said Rice, the fair housing advocate. I was trying to see Lisa Rice's background. Let me see if she pops up. On Wikipedia. I guess, she's the president of it. Now, that's kind of Lisa Rice. I knew it was going to give me kind of Lisa Rice. That's why I was trying hard. Freaking kind of Lisa Rice. Here, let me pull up my LinkedIn without showing the screen. I'll pull up her LinkedIn. Because I don't want to see your messaging. I don't need my inbox to show up on LinkedIn. Let's see. Experience. 17 years, National Fair Housing Alliance. Board of Directors. Education, Bowling Green State University. She got a degree in fine arts. Obviously, you can get your, and this is in 1980, 1984. You can obviously gain education other places. She was president and CDO of Toledo Fair Housing Center. Member of Board of Directors. Is revolutionizing the fitness industry. Yes, fitness industry. Nah, we're gonna share the screen. So this is our education. Fine arts. But then they're telling us, okay, CEO and president of Toledo Fair Housing Center. Danza Tone. This is about life. So this is fitness related. This is nothing to do with this is fitness, not finances. On the Corner Flip episode, we talk about fitness and finances, but not in this case. Then her next job is executive vice president at National Fair Housing Alliance. Anyways, in other cases, racist disparities more have been linked to loan officers helping white borrowers more than black ones, said Pratt. How can you get that type of data? Not that I don't believe it's true, but a lawyer at the law firm Roman Colfax, who previously led the U.S. Department of Department of Housing and Urban Development's civil rights enforcement efforts. I thought the issue was they're using. First, you're saying the automated underwriting process is against black people. Now you're saying when loan officers are actual humans looking at it, they're in favor of white people too. Let's see what this lawyer is saying. A particular loan officer might make exceptions or just work harder for some people's loans, such as telling applicants to pay down credit cards and increase their down payment if they're on the edge of getting approved, Pratt said. Loan officers might give this advice to a white borrower, and with a black borrower, they're less likely to do that. I want to be very clear. And see, this is when it's like, I wasn't a loan officer, but I was a teller. I never, not one time, looked and said, this is a black person. Let me help them less than I would a white person. Actually, I am black. One could say I went over and beyond when helping black people the best I can. Now, I was someone who was well versed in my job. I was all right at it. And so I knew the things that, we could do as far as, give better member service and that we couldn't do. And I would do everything I can to people in a situation where they needed, quote unquote, some extra help based off our policy to help them. Now, let me say this. But because of money, people be upset. But, the rudest person I helped, I don't know. Everybody was rude. Every race. Every race people. Actually, I don't know if any Latino people that were rude. I helped a lot of them. But all the rude people came in all shapes, colors, and sizes. It's not like just black people are rude, just white people are rude. But the person who I remember the most, like the consistently rude person who came there often, was a black person. It was a black person. I want to say, this is a black lady, and boy, she be on her ass. She said something one time. Every now and then, my supervisor, she would tell her just to keep her skills up, like on a Saturday. And she made the comment to my supervisor saying, now my supervisor doesn't tell her often because she does more, not she does administrative stuff, but she doesn't tell her that often. She supervises us. She does other things too, but in general, she doesn't tell her on the line every day like we do as tellers. This lady ended up getting our supervisor, and she said, they let you be the supervisor and you move this slow or something. She said something like that. And I loved everybody that I worked for at the credit union. And my supervisor is an extremely nice person. And when this lady said that to our supervisor, we were like, dang. I almost said her name. I don't want to say her name. Like, dang, she said that to what to you? It's like, all right, we like, look, whenever she come in, we're gonna make sure that you don't help. But then our supervisor's like, no, the next time she comes in, I'm going to help her. As a point. But it's like, but I want to be clear. So what do you think? And not just that lady, but any rude people. If you're rude and then you come in and you need help, you think we're gonna do more than what we're required to? Man, we went to training. We know what we have to do by law and what we're required to do as far as the policy where we work at. We don't have to let you know. We don't have to let you know there's a one-time courtesy. We don't have to call around to different financial institutions for you that, different actual financial institutions that we work at, different branches, to see if they can do whatever you're trying to do. We don't have to do that. Let's be clear. The daily cash limit is $2,500. It's posted everywhere in this bitch. If you ask for more than that, that's it. Now, what I could do is look up your account and make sure that you ain't take out no money anywhere else and limit you there. You took out $2,000 another branch and drove over here to get another $2,000. You actually only get $500. It's a daily cash limit to all these branches. We could do that, but we try to be respectful. And again, we are a credit union bank. We got money. I mean, we don't only play, we got the money. So we're going to do our best to service you. And again, at a credit union, you do your best. The credit union's big thing is providing member service, right? You're a member at a credit union, not a customer. But I mean, let's be clear. People will be off the chain on here. And to think that people at these financial institutions are in the back office are like, oh, this is a white person. Let me get in some more game. Like, let's be clear. I had to make sure when people, it's the repo out in your card. I'm like, look, they potentially trying to repo your car. and I'm supposed to, process the transaction methodically. So my supervisor can go and look on the camera to see if your car out there was our car now, so we can repo it. This is what I'm talking about. No. Loan officers might. It says low. So this is saying the racial disparities are due to a might. They might give this advice to a white borrower, and with a black borrower, they're less likely to do it. So they might do something and less likely might. They're less likely might to do it to black people. I want to be clear. If the advice is pay down credit cards and increase your down payment, if they telling white people that, not black people that in 2023, now again, this was 1975. That's one thing. All this information, if you don't know to have less debt and more down payment when you applying for debt, if the loan officer got to tell you that, you don't need to get the loan. Your ass need to get denied. Shit. She noted that she had no evidence that Navy federal employees were doing. What is going on with this article? They keep contradicting themselves. She noted that she had no evidence that Navy federal employees were doing that, but said the disparities Navy federal approval rate should require a lender to offer justifications for how the disparity occurs. It's not a disparity in the sense of they're looking at it like, okay, I approve 75% of my white applicants, less than 50% of their black applicants. I'm not looking at it like that. Like if you want to tell me as a teller, and I'm doing, my average is well over 25 transactions an hour, but that's almost two transactions a minute. If you're telling me I was assessing the race of the people, I cannot recall how many black people, white people I help. I'm pretty sure I help more white people, but because of demographics. But I'd be damned if they try to tell me that I did this to black people versus white people. I don't know how many black people, white people I helped. I can guess because I know where I live at and where I work at. Yo, out your rabbit ass mind to think that these people are sitting there. And man, again, I'm doing face to face. We're not face to face, but I'm RTS, the remote teller station, which you see when you go to the drive-thru sometimes on the TV screen, but it was like that in the physical branch. So I'm looking at people. I'm required to look at people for my job. I cannot do my job unless I can verify you for almost every transaction. I'm not looking at your skin tone to see what race you are. I'm looking at your skin tone to make sure you match the ID you gave me. I'm looking like this is a white person, so look at this white. I'm not looking at your race in that general sense. Man, what? Not to mention on a how, as you can see, scrutinized mortgages are, especially disparities, things like that. You really think? And by the way, I want to be clear: loan officers are not out here making the bag. Let's see how much these people are gonna risk in salary. Anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000. Let's do mortgage so I get a little bit more specific. They're saying 80K. You think people have to risk the 80K for some nigga to deny some black people? Why would they do that? Well, that make no sense. Yeah, yo, I'm about to deny this black person. Well, bro, you tripping. According to federal law, lenders don't have to be intentionally engaging in racism to break fair lending rules. A disparate impact on minorities can also lead to discrimination claims. It's bad business to discriminate because if people are genuinely qualified, as in many cases they are, then lenders are missing the opportunity to make loans. Right. Let's be clear. If the financial institution thinks you're going to pay back the loan that you're applying for, they're going to give it to you. If they don't think you're going to pay it back, they're not going to give it to you. They want those loans on the books. That's how they make. If you're not giving them, the banks need this interest. Let's be very clear. Lenders who look more carefully at these issues can see they're losing business that somebody else is getting. Exactly. And that's why Navy Federal approved almost more black borrowers for these particular conventional mortgages than anybody. Pearson said that the credit union was proud of a large portion of its loans that went to black borrowers, as I just said, and that more than half of its branches in the U.S. are located in minority communities. He said, run that data. More than half of his branches. More than half. So majority of Navy Federal's branches are located in minority communities. What you want from them? And not to mention, and think about this, a majority of their members are not minorities, but a majority of their institutions are located in minority communities. What you want from them? Bill, like, what y'all, Mr. Pearson? I'm gonna call Mr. Pearson's like, what? What y'all want from us? Listen, I'm pulling up all the data. we're looking at 53% of people. I think it's in the Army. Army has more black people than anybody. We're looking at 54% of the women are white, and then almost 70% of the men are white in the military. And the majority of the military is white. So that number is probably going to be around probably 60%. Most people in the military are men. So that means probably a majority of people in Navy are white men. But never mind. We don't want to get into the real data. Y'all trying to clown Navy, and they like, yo, over half our branches is in these nigga neighborhoods. Yeah, we call them niggas today because it's getting out of control. It's getting out. I told you on 2024, when blasphemy is occurring, when we all need to start pulling up y'all men, get these receipts, and really look into this information that's being dispensed to us and dispensed out here to you. And it's not reading a headline. The largest credit union denies over half its black borrowers, largest gap between black and white borrowers out of any financial institution in the whole country. No. Navy, like, what are y'all talking about? What? What data did they get? They had a credit score? Wait, what? They saying that out of over a dozen data points, they had multiple people with identical data points? Wait, what? Can we see the data that they had? Wait, and they be like, wait, ain't this our data? Is this not? Ain't this our data? Is this not? I'm looking to the right for people watching this because my TV's right here and I see my reflection. I'm looking at myself like, ain't this who data? Is this our data? Navy is confused. As a not-for-profit, member-centric, not to mention, they be like, wait, if we don't approve people who should get approved, that's bad for us. That's literally how we would go out of business doing that. Okay. Member-centric membership organization, which is Navy, we are focused on expanding awareness and access to home ownership across the country. He said Navy Federal is a trusted financial partner for all its members and advises each member based on their unique financial needs. I thought we were going to lose the house. CNN's analysts found that Navy Federal had large, so large disparity for conventional mortgages and VA home loans, which each account for about half of the loans it originated last year. VA loans are backed by the federal government or designed to veterans that might not qualify for the conventional market. That is not what VA loans are not designed to allow veterans to get mortgages that they might not qualify for in the conventional market. That's not what it's for. The benefit of the VA loan is that you don't have to do the funding fee, and there is no down payment. But again, it's not like the down payment is crazy. The down payment is 3.5% for FHA, 3% for conventional. But racial disparity still exists among Navy Federal. And by the way, I don't care what VA says. It's not for people who can't qualify for the conventional market. Let's be clear. VA is Veterans Affairs, but I don't say majority, but a lot of people get the VA loan are actually active duty. If you're active duty, if you're in the military, you don't have to be a veteran yet, right? If you're in the military, still active or reservist, you're not a veteran. You gotta get out to get your veteran status. Gotta get your, honorable discharge paperwork, all that type of stuff. But a lot of people who get these VA loans, they still pay the VA funding fee because remember, to not pay the VA funding fee, all you got to do is be 10%. All right. And you can get 10%, which is the lowest VA rating, by claiming hearing loss, which pretty much everybody in the military gets. I believe it's the highest claim rating. So it's not hard to avoid the funding fee. By the way, this funding fee is what helps this VA program continue to go as far as these VA loans, this particular VA program, as far as the loans I'm talking about here. So that funding fee is likely going to be paid for by people who are active duty. All right, so it's not that people want to commit. I mean, these are different. This is a people in the military are not going to be disabled, so they have to pay the funding fee. But it's not that they can't get to the conventional market. What ends up happening is then they just find out they got to move again. And once you get a family, things like that, you usually don't want to live on base. You want to live in military quarters. So you usually want to get a house. And so it's not that they're in the conventional market. They got an unconventional job where they can just be told you got to move in less than 6 months. You got to move in the next week. You're gone. Or you're just getting deployed. Right? They're in a job that requires them to travel a lot and move. And it makes it almost impossible to plant roots. But racial disparity still existed. And also too with the VA, to break it down, since we're talking about the VA loans, the VA funding fee is set up to where the lowest percentage you'll pay is when you do your first loan. However, your first application, your first loan. But the second one and beyond has a higher funding fee. And it's based off your down payment. There's a 3-tier threshold. I think less than 5%, 5 to 10, and 10% or more are the ranges for how much you're going to pay for your funding fee. However, they know that people in the military are going to have to move multiple times. If they're doing their 20, they're like going to have a family, going to be less likely to want to stay on quarters and more likely to want to buy a house. Why do you think they had the funding fee increase? So say you don't have to pay a down payment, but if you don't do a down payment, you got to pay this funding fee. And it's low. It's the lowest it's going to be on the first time. But if you're in the military, you're going to move. My dad, my Virginia, Kansas, Kentucky. My dad did a little over 20 years. He lived in Virginia, Kansas, Kentucky, Arizona, Hawaii, and Maryland. My dad did 20 years and lived in 6 different states. That's almost moving every 3 years. If you want to do that math, the longest I think they lived somewhere was Hawaii for 5 years. My dad, I was born in Arizona. I think my parents lived there not even 18 months. I want to say they lived there barely 13 months, barely a year. I mean, in the military, they got you can just move. All right, a lot of people want to not say buy a house. They want to have a house once you have that family. All right, but racial disparities. I'm trying to close out now. Yeah, okay, we're almost done. Still existed among Navy Federal's VA loan. Okay, business. Last year, Navy Federal approved 84% of its white. Okay, 73%, and then 71%. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? There's always racial disparities. And why do we want every race not going to be equal? But when we come to finances, all this is showing me is that the financial data is in agreement. Black people is at the bottom. This is all I see. And it's not, I'm not making light of it, but when you see this type of article that's trying to put this, black spot, put this, this mark on Navy, and Navy's like, what do y'all want us to do? We approve more black than everybody. We got over half our branches minority communities, but they're trying to blame us. Its black white approval rate gap was larger than all but one of the 50 lenders that originated the most VA home purchases. So they're saying even on the VA loans, they almost had the highest gap as well. Like in Navy Federal's conventional business, the racial differences were statistically significant, even when accounting for factors like income, property value, debt income ratio, and down payment percentage. Okay, if we have the same data for the VA loans that you have for the conventional, we know you're missing significant data. And the reason my words are getting tied up is because I'm getting tired. That's my excuse. All right, Ted Spencer, 42, applied for a Navy Fed mortgage in 2019. Purchasing a home in Raleigh, North Carolina. Spencer, who is black, had been banking with Navy Fed since he joined the Navy 2 decades ago, so he's retired, if he's out, and had good experiences with the credit union, so it was an obvious choice for a loan. He was pre-approved for a VA loan with no down payment. Recommendation is not to do no down payment. Obviously, the VA loan allows you to do that, but recommendation is still not to do that if you choose to do the VA loan. By the way, here, remember when I talk about the disability status? I'm interested to see if he's a disabled veteran or not. See, it's like this type of data that if you're talking about a VA loan, whether or not you're disabled or not is extremely important because they ask you that as part of the loan process for the VA loan. Are you a disabled veteran or not? Because if you're not, you don't have to pay the funding fee. Excuse me, not if you're a disabled veteran. Are you collecting disability income? I'm going to be clear on that verbiage. On his first weekend house hunting, Spencer, 4-bedroom, North Carolina, and Raleigh. Area, dog space for kids. We really don't care about the area. We walked through the house. We don't care. The offer was accepted right away. After Spencer submitted paperwork, Navy ended up waiting weeks. He said he repeatedly emailed, called, and messaged his loan officer without any response. Then finally, he heard back that the mortgage was denied with a letter from the credit union that he showed CNN, citing his credit history and debt. So you got bad credit, you got credit history and debt. Remember, just because your credit score is high doesn't mean your credit history looks good. Because they could decide to go back 10 years. They know how far they want to go back and be like, oh, we don't like that you got this in your credit history. It was pretty much the 11th hour. Spencer said he thought they were going to lose the house. But like Mr. Bill, Spencer found another mortgage lender quickly who approved them for a loan. So I'm happy to see these people at least got their house at a lower interest rate than Navy Federal. It sounds like you lucked out. Why are you mad, Mr. Spencer? You should definitely go to people who are going to give you the lowest interest rate on a mortgage. You probably did a 30-year. He and his girlfriend were able to close. All right, here we go. Mr. Spencer is now taken out of this study. He looks like it says he and his girlfriend were able to close on the loan only a week late. Maybe it's a week later, probably. If Mr. Spencer went and got a mortgage with his girlfriend, he needs to be taken out the study. We knew that we are invalidating. I am invalidating Mr. Spencer from this. Do not get a mortgage, let alone sign any other debt, but do not get a mortgage with someone you were not married to. My God, do not get on debt with someone you were not married to. There's everything never to do with your money. It might be that. Don't get a payday loan. Don't owe the IRS. But I would say maybe number one is signing debt with someone you were not married to. My God. Mr. Spencer said he never thought the denial had anything to do with his race, and that the data CNN showed him about racial disparities in the credit union's lending practices blew my mind, Mr. Spencer said. He said that it made him think about family stories he'd heard about his grandfather's experience dealing with redlining as he tried to buy a home after returning from the Korean War. Redlining definitely supersedes Navy. But hey, I'm surprised it took that long for redlining to get brought up. Some realtors who specialize in serving minority and veteran home buyers, which I would say that Navy is in this category, being that over half their branches are minority neighborhoods, and they are probably have the largest percentage-wise of veterans. As far as their members as customers, Mr. Spencer and Mr. Bill, what's up? I'm almost done. I know you like my wife came here like I know it's 7:27. I get 3 minutes. I swear I'm almost done though. Mr. Spencer and Mr. Bill experience of being denied by Navy Federal and then easily approved by another lender wasn't uncommon. If a client calls and said I was disapproved by Navy Federal, the first thing we say is, let's get you with another lender, says Anthony Renew, a California-based realtor. Clients are calling you, Mr. Anthony, saying I've been denied by Navy Federal. In the military community, many people know that Navy Federal is not the best when it comes to mortgages. Yes, it's well known on the mortgage side. So again, something else that's not Navy. This has not hurt the Navy at all. The credit union has previously faced scrutiny over racial disparities. Analysis by the nonprofit news outlet The Markup using 2019 data found that Navy Federal was among the large lenders with the biggest racial gaps in approval rates. CNN found the gap has only grown since then. Navy Fed said at that time that the Markup's analysis did not accurately reflect its practice. Navy Federal has also faced legal action over allegations of aggressive lending practices and other banking violations. In 2016, it paid about $28.5 million in redress and fines. And the federal government found it had falsely threatened borrowers over debt collection and froze them out of their accounts. Some of the black borrowers denied by Navy Federal said they saw home ownership not just as a financial accomplishment, but goal. Immigrant from Kenya. So it sounds like Mr. Bob is not a veteran. Said that buying his house felt like living the American dream. After his rejection from Navy Federal, he said he couldn't help but think about other black borrowers who weren't able to get another loan. What about the ones who were denied? What about the ones who can't get their own dream house? Mr. Bill asks, is something that's going to affect generations all the way down to their kids. How we reported this story, here we go, that's it. CNN analyzed data on millions of mortgage applications that evaluate racial disparities in Navy Federal and lending at Navy Fed and other lenders. The data was released by Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Reporters analyzed conventional first lien 1 to 4 unit conforming home purchase loan applications. How many people do you think black people went and took, again, pandemic information, financial advice, go get you a 2, 3, 4 unit so you can rent out the other units? How many people do you think you did that? The review only included mortgages for homes intended to be used for primary residence. Okay, cool. Evaluate the likelihood of applicants of each racial. I hope we get to 13, the dozen plus data points. Applicants of each racial and ethnic group being denied when more than a dozen other variables were held constant. What are the variables? Other variables, all of which are included in the HDMA data set. Okay, we got included here. Here we go. The applicant's home, the applicant's debt to income ratio, the loan amount, the loan term, the loan to value ratio, the property value, the presence of a co-applicant. I tell you I don't read the articles ahead of time. I'm looking for the data set, and it's right here. The applicant and co-applicant sex, the credit scoring model used to generate the applicant's credit score, the primary applicant's age, the minority population percentage of the property census tract, the median age of housing units in the properties, okay, and the difference between the median income and the metro area and the median income of the property. Okay, most of these data points have nothing to do with you as an individual. Debt income ratio, presence of co-applicant, applicant sex. Those are the only ones that have anything to do if you want to say credit score. Age doesn't matter. The minority population percentage of the property census tract, irrelevant to you. You don't control that. The median age of the housing unit, nothing to do. Who cares? This is half and half. The analysis classified applicants as Latino if they reported Latino ethnicity, no matter their race. Mixed race applicants and applicants from co-applicants of different races or ethnicities were excluded. So they didn't include the mixed race people. Shout out to Plessy versus Ferguson. Alternate methods of defining race and ethnicity, such as looking at only demographics of the primary applicant and not any co-applicants, did not substantially change the results. So I would say based off the data they used, this is the data based off this whole article as we wrap up. Debt income ratio, income obviously. Those are the only, the loan amount, the loan term, the loan to value ratio. See how different were these loan amounts and loan to value ratios? They said even when they were the same, there was discrepancy. I want to see the data. You're telling me these people had it said identical. That means no difference in all these data points, and there were still disparities. I'd be surprised if you're telling me these people made this exact same amount of money, not $1,000 difference, not even $1 difference. We're talking about identical. Same means no difference. Can you tell me there was still a gap? Interesting to see that data. I wonder if we can find that data, but we can't. All right, y'all, again, the nation's largest credit union, aka Navy Federal, rejected more than half of its Black conventional mortgage applicants. Again, by Casey Tolan, Audrey Ash, and Renee Marsh. CNN 14-minute read, and it took me over an hour to do this. Hour and a half, almost 2 hours. I told you I was going to be crazy. Oh my goodness, y'all. Locked and loaded. End of the episode. I want to be very clear. In situations like this, we actually need the data. Not to mention, they said all throughout the article, they actually didn't find anything that showed any type of racial disparities or discrimination in their review or analysis of the information, just that the data said that it was. But like I said, they even said that, Navy also denied more white people than everybody too. Of those 6 people, I think it was Rocket Mortgage, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells, and CQ. So my wife said this hoodie made me look small. This hoodie is a small, but it's like a 90s theme hoodie that I got a couple years ago, and it's huge. It is huge. Anyway, I got a medium. I was like, oh my God, I had to take a, return and get a small. Anyways, neither here nor there. Interesting to see what's going to come out over the next week or so if this story is going to die down. But based off of that article, that headline is a great headline. Shout out to people who do these headlines. But they pretty much said in there that they didn't have any conclusive evidence that Navy and Short had racial discrimination in their practices. Just that the data based off of their approval rates was that there were disparities. It is what it is. And as they admitted, Navy is not the best place to go get your mortgage, per them. All right. And then we're talking about during the pandemic, we're talking about, I got, Navy denied my application for a mortgage. And then I went and got application for a mortgage approved in 15 days from start to finish. Wow, that's not good. All right, well, that's it, y'all. Locked and loaded. End of the episode. Make sure y'all comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to YouTube algorithm. If you watch this whole thing, hit that like button. Crazy. All right. Things from a financial standpoint in the Black community appear not to be getting better. And I'm not talking about Navy. I'm just talking about when we look at all the data points. All the data points. So when we see something like this, where all it is doing is echoing almost every financial statistic out there, when we look at all the races in America, that Black people are doing the worst off financially. What do you want Navy to do? They're in line with everybody else. And then again, Navy said, we trying to help Black people the most. We got over half our branches in minority communities. We giving out almost more mortgages based on these conventional mortgages that they talked about than anybody out here. We deny more white people than those other 5 institutions you compare us to. Navy's like, God dang. All right, y'all. But that's it, y'all. Locked and loaded. Also, again, we didn't talk about too much about the VA loans, but we saw that over 70% in the VA loans, even though they're saying that Navy still had one of the largest discrepancies. I think the second largest when it came to VA loans, when Black people comparing to white people, it's like, my God, is there not supposed to be any gap at all? I mean, that gap was around 12%. I think it was 84 white people, 71% Black. Talking about 13% there. And the one 2019, it was 11%, or 2018 for the conventional mortgage that they did. So it's like, oh my goodness, so many different data points, so many things to look at, figure out what's going on. I would say based off this article, all we did was confirm what I've been saying all throughout this episode. Black people at the bottom, we got to figure it out. And we talk about that income ratios, income, things like that. Yes, situation where Black people made 140, white people made less than 62. And white people still got to prove more, but they didn't look at other data points like down payment assistance and things of that nature, which can help you when it comes to your ability to get approved for a mortgage. If you think people who are loan officers and back office are like, yeah, let me make sure I deny more Black people than white people. Let me make sure I give more white people better advice as far as how to get approved for this mortgage than Black people. No. That's not the case. Now, there are some people who are assholes, and they're going to just help. They're going to help certain people. But what people are more likely to do, and I can say this from experience again, almost 6 years of tele experience here. So I'm working. These people were my coworkers. People are more likely to not help you to not help you at all, to give you worse service. They're not likely to give you better service, to be like, yeah, make sure you pay down your credit card debt, have more of a down payment. They're just more likely to screw you. They're not more likely to help you. And that's from my experience. I've done more than 3,700 transactions. Talking about 3,700, I think Black applications. I've done way more than 3,700. I think my transaction is like over 100K. It's something crazy. So, but I had some people that I work with, and they would just they would almost do stuff like against policy. Like if I was in charge, I'm gonna have to terminate your ass right here on the spot. Cause I'm like, that's not the rules. Like you can't do that. And they would choose not to help people, to provide worse service, not choose to go above and beyond for people. Most people do not go above and beyond. Most people don't have the energy, let alone are well versed enough and good enough at their job to provide the quote unquote best service. More people like you to give you, below average service due to their skill set, or just intentionally screw you. Chance that people are gonna be like, yeah, make sure you pay down your credit card debt, and make sure you have more of a down payment, as if you need to know that to get your mortgage. And if you do, you probably shouldn't get the mortgage in the first place. That's probably not happening. But all right, y'all. Again, this is gonna be the last Wealth Wednesday. This is Monday night, so this is gonna drop on Wednesday. I don't know when I'm gonna record again to start the new series, but nothing's gonna change. Which I need to make improvements. So stuff do need to change, but still gonna be the same good content information. We're gonna talk about the student loans on the next episode, unless something crazy drops like this. All right, y'all. Remember to save more and say less. Wait, I forgot. If you haven't looked in the description, Jordan's information is there as well as mine. Jordan Stops All and J. I'm silent_Cory. Reach out to us for your finance and fitness questions. All right, y'all. Again, remember to save more, say less. Keep making better your best. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.